I want to talk today about liberty for all and justice for all, equality before the law, and the reign of kindness. There is no national orientation, no ownership orientation, no sexual orientation. You're all one in Jesus Christ, so says St. Paul. I speak to you today out of the Christian tradition in this delightful interfaith context, where every view of peace on earth and goodwill towards human beings is valued. We are met here on this solemn occasion to remember those who have died because of hate crimes, to stand in solidarity with those in history who've called for justice to flow like a river and righteousness like a mighty stream. The civil rights struggle in our day and generation is equality before the law for our gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual communities. We are here today to cash the check promised long ago by the founders of this country that all are created equal and must be treated equally before the law. We have cashed that check for the African American community, the Latin community, the Japanese community, and for women. On the 29th of September 2009, U.S. District Judge Jordan dismissed a lawsuit, essentially finding that the Jackson Memorial Hospital was within its rights to deny access to the immediate family of Lisa Pond when she lay dying in the intensive care unit. Separated from her lesbian partner of some 18 years and their adopted children, Lisa died cut off from the family that she loved. Her family was denied access, although standard family information was available to other people in the intensive care unit. This family got none, even though Janice, her partner, had power of attorney and was legal guardian with authority to make end-of-life decisions. When Lisa was admitted, a social worker came into the anxious family and said, "You are in an anti-gay city and state, and without health care proxy, you will not see Lisa or know of her condition." Janice had to watch as other families were invited back inside the unit to visit their loved ones. 5 long hours passed, and finally a Catholic priest invited her back to witness the last rites and then escorted her out again. When Janice pleaded that the children wanted to say goodbye, she was told that they were too young. In nearly 8 hours, Lisa slowly moved towards brain death, and no one was there to hold her hand or to tell her that she was loved. All of Janice's pleas fell on deaf ears. Matt Algren writes, "Explain to me again how a straight couple could have been split like this for even 5 minutes, let alone hours. Explain to me how 3 children would have been kept from their straight mother's side. Explain to me how a dying straight person would be treated in such a cruel, vicious way. Tell me again why the word marriage doesn't mean anything and doesn't matter. Tell me again just to be patient and not rock the boat. Better you tell it to Lisa Pond's partner and her children." Now, many of us in this sacred place today have walked around the Capitol with a crowd of protesters who were no on Proposition 8. We cried together, "What do we want? Equality. When do we want it? Now." On October the 6th, it was my wedding anniversary. Flowers came to my front door. When we opened up the card, it was from 2 gay friends of ours who were celebrating our marriage. Our eyes filled with tears because we had a right before the law to get married simply because we were straight. But our gay friends could not. They had it denied by Proposition 8, and yet they celebrated our marriage anyway. As Dean Brian Baker said so eloquently last year, gay couples inspire and strengthen his marriage. I, too, can testify to their example. Last year, I celebrated a gay marriage, and it was one of the most loving marriages I've ever presided over. It was one of the 18,000 marriages that were able to cash the founder's check. I want today to speak then to my Christian brothers and sisters who campaigned for the yes on Proposition 8. I was involved in the no on 8 campaign. And in the course of it, I listened to my Christian brothers and sisters complain that family values were at stake. It was anti-biblical. It was morally wrong. It was a repeat of Sodom and Gomorrah. I listened as disinformation was deliberately spread, teaching that same-sex marriage would take place in schools if the no on Prop 8 won. That was circulated as truth. The state vehemently denied that to be the case. I noted the millions of dollars poured into the Yes on 8 campaign by Mormons and Catholics. Was this a proper use of a 501c3? Legislation was influenced. And I wondered, what's driving these desperate measures? And I came to two conclusions. One, fear. And two, a need to control other people. The fear was genuine, coming from the belief that somehow God would be displeased. The impending anger of God was the reason that control was needed to stop the No on 8 campaign. And all of this was justified by scriptures lifted from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And that is why the GLBT community needed to be controlled, these folks said, for their own good and for the good of society. Dangerous, patronizing stuff. I wept. Why? Because all of the other scriptures in that tradition were being ignored completely, like the very most basic. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. For instance, was it neighbor love that Lisa Pond experienced in the Jackson Memorial Hospital? You know it was not. St. Paul was an interesting guy. He's often quoted by Christians as being anti-gay. But they forget the state of the knowledge of the world that was available to St. Paul. Not only did St. Paul not know about space travel or radio and television or cell phones, he also did not know about the human genome, or that human sexuality lies along a spectrum from very male to very female with everything in between. If St. Paul was our contemporary, he would surely have a degree from Yale or Harvard, and he would be on the top of the issues of the day and the latest scientific research. Research which shows clearly that we were not all created as heterosexuals, as he mistakenly believed. Wrong assumptions, no matter how brilliant we may be, lead to wrong conclusions and terrible legislation. St. Paul's legislation regarding the gay community was simply wrong. He was doing his best with what he knew, but I know that if he was around today, he would be, number one, very surprised that his writings were taken as scripture, and two, he would have done his homework on the GLBT community, and he'd be standing in solidarity with us today, demanding equality before the law. I see him at the front of the line with Lisa in the Capitol steps. That's who St. Paul would be. For St. Paul, freedom was absolutely basic to his theology and determination of righteousness. We were not robots. We were beings of free choice.